The Heat beat the Celtics 103-84 in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. With this win, the Heat will advance to the NBA Finals. Winning the Larry Bird Eastern Conference Finals MVP award was Jimmy Butler. After averaging 24.7 points, 7.6 rebounds, 6.1 assists, and 2.6 steals per game during this series. And honestly, I think this is kind of a silly award. Who cares who has the best series during the conference finals? That being said, Butler was well deserving of this award. And as for Game 7, Butler was aggressive from the start. He scored 28 points on 12 for 28 shooting. That's where his aggressiveness hurt him a little bit in this game, as he didn't have the best shooting efficiency. Butler also finished this game with 7 rebounds and 6 assists. So he was also active on the boards and got his teammates involved on offense. He also played great defensively. He wasn't playing anyone one-on-one on defense because Miami went to their zone pretty early in this game. But he was active and finished with 3 steals. The Heat also got a great game from Caleb Martin, which I said Butler was well deserving of the Larry Bird MVP. You could make a great case that Caleb Martin should have won this award instead. And with Butler struggling in a couple games during the series, you could arguably say Martin was the better player in this series. And during Game 7, Martin had 26 points and 10 rebounds on 11 for 16 shooting, and was 4 for 6 from the three-point line. The Heat also had great contribution from players off their bench, as Kyle Lowry had 7 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists, which may not seem like the best game, but Kyrie really helped out the Heat in this one. Another player who had a strong performance off the bench was Duncan Robinson, who scored 10 points on 4 for 6 shooting and 2 for 3 from 3. And although not even a good defensive player, he did make a couple good defensive plays in this game. And this game was a little close. The Heat held a 10 to 15 point lead through most of the game. Then they pulled away from Boston in the fourth. Even with this dominant win, surprisingly, Bam Adebayo still struggled, as he only scored 12 points on 4 for 10 shooting, which you could see positively or negatively, as the Heat still won with their second best player only scoring 12 points. But you could also look at it as their second best player still only scored 12 points. And as for the Celtics, they failed to come back from the 3-0 deficit. This was a disappointing way for their season to end, as coming into the series they were heavy favorites to make it back to the NBA Finals, then to falling down 3-0 in the series, and almost everyone thinking they would be swept, then to come back to life and force a Game 7 on their home court, to have the Heat pull away in the fourth quarter and make the whole game look like a complete blowout. So on the first play of the game, Jason Tatum got fouled on a layup attempt and rolled his ankle pretty badly. And the game pretty much went downhill for the Celtics from that point on. Tatum was nowhere near the same player after he rolled his ankle, as he finished the game with 14 points and 11 rebounds on 5 for 13 shooting. And after he rolled his ankle, he lost all the mobility on defense that helped the Celtics win the last 3 games. And offensively, he didn't have the agility or burst that he normally would to create for himself and his teammates. And sadly for Boston, Jaylen Brown did not step up for them, as he had 19 points on 1 for 9 shooting threes and had 8 costly turnovers. When neither Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown are having good games, it is very difficult for this Boston team to win games. As the Celtics team shot just as bad from 3 this game as they did Game 6, going 9 for 42. Derek White was one of the few Celtics players that had a okay game. He seemed to be the only player who tried to step up after Tatum's injury. Robert Williams was another guy who came off the bench and had a pretty good game. He finished with 8 points and 6 rebounds. Now I want to move on to what should be the Celtics' off-season priorities. Now the last 2 years, the Celtics have been right there, but have just been missing something to get them over the cliff and win the NBA Finals. And I honestly think that is coaching. Not that the Celtics coaching has been bad the last 2 years, just they lack experience. Now with what Joe Mazzulla did in the series to help the Celtics crawl back from a 3-0 deficit, even though they didn't win, I think Mazzulla proved that he can become a top 10 coach in this league at some point. And the Celtics should not be thinking about firing him. But I do think they need at least one veteran assistant coach to mentor him and help him develop. I was thinking the Celtics could maybe hire Terry Stotts or Kenny Atkinson, maybe even someone like Frank Vogel, to help Mazzulla with the tiny details you learn with experience as a head coach. As for players, I think that Danilo Gallinari is going to probably exercise his player's option for next season, which could be a great addition depending on what version the Celtics will get from him coming off an ACL surgery. I think that Grant Williams was able to play himself back into the rotation during the playoffs, and he is deserving of the Celtics to at least extend him a qualifying offer. Now, I'm not great with the whole cap space and bird years and that whole aspect of basketball, but I think Grant Williams is worth between $16 to $18 million. But if there's a team that offers Grant more than that, I think the Celtics should just let him go. And due to other big contracts on the Celtics payroll, they don't have the cap space to sign anyone other than maybe a veteran's minimum contract. So unless they do a couple trades, I don't see this roster changing too much in the offseason. Another big priority for the Celtics, if not their biggest priority, is with his second team All-NBA, Jaylen Brown has now qualified for a Supermax contract. And it is widely thought that Jaylen Brown will get this Supermax extension during the offseason. And it's a very good idea for the Celtics to lock up their core players long term so they know the future that they're going to have to build around is Tatum and Brown. And with this win, the Heat will be going on to face the Denver Nuggets in the NBA Finals. There are probably very few people that projected this would be the NBA Finals at the start of the season. But that being said, this should still be a very interesting series. Even though it's the 1 seed in the West and the 8 seed in the East, we have seen throughout these playoffs that the Heat can play above their seed and have made their second finals in, I believe it's 4 years. And reports are that Tyler Hero should be back at some point during the finals. And also, the reason I brought up Bam Adebayo struggling in this game when the Heat were so dominant was so that I could state here that if the Heat want to win the NBA Finals, Bam Adebayo has got to perform better in the finals than he did in the Eastern Conference Finals. I won't go into too much depth on that series right now, as I plan on putting out an NBA Finals preview in the next couple of days. But yeah, that's where the NBA stands after last night.